Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our launch day week, and we are yet to launch another great features. That's something Shivanshu has been working on. Previously, Shivanshu demoed a capability on third-party monitoring API. And hey, Shivanshu, welcome back again. What is the interesting thing that we are going to talk about today?
Hey Ankit, welcome everyone. Today will introduce another feature that we are launching in the launch week 4. The feature is tracing funnel. It's an innovative feature. You cannot draw any parallel to any other vendor because we have built something from ground up. We'll see and discuss some details around the feature as we go.
This sounds really fascinating because I've been hearing the word funnels accompanied by tracing for the first time. So I'm very excited to see what you are going to demo and how what are the interesting use cases that you're going to solve. Before we jump into the demo, would you mind sharing the few use cases that a user will be able to solve via this feature and like what are the common scenarios?
Today, one of the way to analyze your microservice health is to see the corresponding traces, understand corresponding spans, see the
Hmm.
duration in a given span, right? But
Hmm.
if you think about it, in asynchronous system, there's no way a root span can give you all the details about underlying span because that's what a sync system does.
Right.
But let's say if in the underlying service, let's say if I take an example of an e-commerce website, there's just many asynchronous calls happening there. And if I want to compare two of the specific operations, one operation is I click on checkout, and then another operation is I click on payment, right?
Hmm.
Now I want to see in my distributed trace, and that's an async system. What's
Hmm.
happening between these two spans across all the trace IDs, right?
Hmm.
Then it's very hard to do. You cannot go and look at all the traces and then try to understand what's the average duration between these two steps. What is the average error happening between these two steps?
Hmm.
So that's where we are trying to introduce the concept of funnel, where you can create funnels using specific spans and then compare what's happening between those spans.
Got it. To summarize it up, it seems like when you have thousands and thousands of spans, and let's say you are very much interested in measuring what happened between event point A to event point X, which happens to like in between the complete trace, that's when the funnels is going to be very helpful to understand what is the time taken between these two spans and like how many of them are not even reaching from point A to point X, how many of them are dropping in between, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. What do you say about diving into a demo?
Yeah, let's do that. Let me share my screen.
Sure.
To explain the feature in more depth, let me take an
Yeah.
example from a big long trace, right?
Mhm.
So here, as you can see, there are many services: card, checkout, currency, front end, payment, and there are like multiple spans in it,
Mhm.
and we support like loading millions of spans. So
Mhm.
you come here and you see, okay, for this last operation of checkout, there is 52 millisecond of duration of the span, and then
Mhm.
it calls the email service,
Mhm.
which is basically doing the operation of send order confirmation, and then you have the final send email span, right?
Mhm.
Now probably a team which is taking care of maintaining these services would only be interested around what's the average duration between these two spans, right? The
Mhm.
checkout service and the email service. They want to ensure what is the average duration for only these two spans across multiple trace IDs, right? So
Mhm.
that information is, let's say, missing in a given trace because it's just for a given request. But if I
Mhm.
want to aggregate it across multiple requests, there's no way to do it.
Mhm.
And so that's what the feature does. So let me first explain how you can use the feature, and then we will come back to this and try to create a funnel from here.
Got it.
So, uh, So this is how you can come and go to the funnels page. I have already created a few funnels from specific spans. So let's take a look at the checkout flow. When you land here, you basically see three steps here on the left hand side, where you can specify any service name. You can specify the span name for that service.
Mhm.
We give the corresponding session here.
Mhm.
You can apply any filter. Right now I've applied the deployment name, but you can like apply whatever filter is there to figure out the right span.
Mhm.
And this step once belong to a specific span in this case. So for example, this is my first span that I want to put in the step one.
Got
In the step two, I can have another span. So right now I'm having a front end proxy and router front end egress.
it.
So this is the bare minimum. You need to create like at least two-step funnel. Let me delete the third step funnel and then run it. So first it checks if there is a valid trace. So that happens in the background. And using these two funnel steps, it validates and gives if there are any valid trace IDs present for that. Now once it found valid traces, you can see what's happening there, right? So this is like the bare minimum where you need to have like two steps, but then you can go ahead and add one more funnel step to it. So let me go ahead and add front end and get and then run it. All right. So when I create a funnel with three steps, I see some data here. Are you able to understand what's happening? Or let me dive deeper into like these details. But before that, if you have any questions, you can ask.
Sure, I just want to understand the details. Like it seems very similar to what we have been doing in product analytics to see the drop in between the different stages. But we just have a user ID probably somewhere in the product analytics, and would like to see like what are the stats that we show here in our praise funnels.
Exactly. So yeah, it is sort of you can try to correlate that with product analytics tools
Mhm.
that does a similar thing on the events, but now we are doing that on spans, right? So you
Yeah.
can add a lot of logic on top of okay which spans to pick and how to like create the funnels. But
Mhm.
once you do that, you basically get the overall understanding of these three steps. So here
Okay.
right now we have like three steps, which means we are targeting three specific spans. In this
Mhm.
case, this could be this one and this one and this one.
Mhm.
Now, when you create that funnel and you run the funnel, you get the overall picture of how the spans are behaving across multiple race IDs. So let me try to explain that in more detail.
Mhm.
So here, first thing that I see is conversion rate,
Mhm.
average rate, errors, average duration, and P99. This is for overall funnel metrics.
Okay.
What that means is irrespective of how many traces are coming into like before the funnel step one happens, but once we apply the funnel step one filters, we see all these around 15k valid spans are there, right? But out of those 15k spans, only 12k spans are going into step two, right? And then out of those 12k, 11k spans are going to step three, right? So it gives an idea about what's happening on a high level with these spans, and it also gives the number of error spans, right? So if I just enable toggle here, and I'm interested into seeing what's happening with whenever there is an error in my first step funnel.
Mhm.
In those cases, no span is going to the third step, right?
Mhm.
Because that could be it could be possible that span one is making asynchronous async call to span two, and span one is making async call to span three, right? But
Mhm.
due to this spans are errored out, there is no span that's going to three,
Got
right?
it. So we can
So,
safely say that whenever there is an error in this step one, it never, the step three is never called, right?
yes.
Got it.
So that sort of understanding you can build, and also the average rate shows okay for the span one there is start point and end point
Mhm.
of that particular span, just like we show here the start point and
Mhm.
end point and the total duration of span. Similarly, there are start time and end time for span two and start time and end time for span three.
Mhm.
Now, in, let's say, in these three span, I want to see the overall latency, right? So what's happening between all these three spans within the start time and end time of these three, right? So it gives you the understanding about overall what is the average rate, what is the average duration, what is the average p99 latency, and the error counts.
So average duration is the average time taken by those trace IDs when moving from step one to step three, right?
Exactly, yes.
Nice.
And you can also define which thing to use as a start or end time. So,
Hmm.
like, it depends on the team, right? So, one team can say, okay, my start time is this and my end time is this, right?
Hmm.
So, I want to calculate the whole duration between this start point and this end point.
Got
But
it.
another one can say, okay, I just want this start time until this start time. This is my total duration, right?
Hmm.
So the meaning of total duration depends on the user persona. So that's why we have also added the latency pointer. If you click on start of span, then it considers this point as a starting point. If you take an endpoint of a span, then it takes this point as a starting point for duration and P99 calculation.
Completely makes sense whether the users want to include the end time of a span or not, right?
Yes.
Got
So this is overall funnel metrics, but if you want to dive deeper into any of the two funnel steps, right? So right now
it.
we have three funnel
Mhm.
steps, and I want to zoom in into what's happening with the spans between these two steps, funnel one and funnel two. So
Mhm.
I can just go and select step one to step two transitions,
Mhm.
and here I also get the high level view of overall metrics for only step one and step two, right?
Mhm.
So it is rightly showing me that, okay, there are 14 errors that occurred between step one to step two. The average duration, the P99 latency. As you can see here, the average duration in P99 latency in microseconds, right?
Mhm.
Yes, which means that these it is not taking much time between step one and step two.
Mhm.
But if you see like overall duration, that's in like
25
mm,
milliseconds.
yeah. So
So I see.
probably the calls that are happening from span two to span three, or the calls that are happening from span one to span three are taking time, right?
Hmm.
That we can see and verify if we click here. So yeah, here you can see that the duration is in millisecond, and P99 is in order of 400 milliseconds, right?
Mhm.
So it clearly gives an idea. Okay, in this three funnel steps, probably we are not worried about the duration between one and two,
One to
but we
two,
are,
right?
yeah, probably two and three are taking like more time.
That is like would be a fantastic insight for a team who is looking to optimize their total response time to a of the request.
Exactly, and there is actually no way to do that for asynchronous system, right?
Hmm.
Because from a given trace, you just cannot draw these understandings.
Right.
Now,
Because the root span
yeah,
does not fully reflect the total time of the duration of the span in the trace or the request, right? So breaking it out
yes.
into steps makes a lot of sense and to measure their RDD metrics. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as we can see that there are no errors between span 2 and span 3 transition, right? So
Mhm.
there are like no trace heights with that. But
Mhm.
I see some errors in the funnel step 1 and between funnel step and funnel step 2. So if I go
Mhm.
there and try to see which spans are erroring out, which traces are erroring out, I can
Mhm.
just go and take a look at that.
Mhm.
Uh, just give me a second before it loads. Now, let me maybe try to rerun this. And also, the one of the thing is whenever there is an error here, right? So
Mhm.
it shows status code here and also the error. For
Mhm.
this one, since this is 200, okay, there's no corresponding error here, right? But if there
Got
is
it.
an error, it would show me the error here.
So
So
that's how
now,
we track the errors. Like if the step one definition of your span has, can we go back to the just the funnels steps,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we define the service name and the name in the step one of a span, right? So if that span has errors, then we count them as error spans in the step of the funnel, right?
Exactly. And this toggle you can use to specifically look on only those trace IDs where the
Right.
step one contains errors.
Got it.
Now, here I got the trace IDs for the step one,
Hmm.
which contains errors, right? So let
Right.
me go ahead and take a look at it. Maybe I can open one, and it also shows step transition duration, right?
Hmm.
So how much time it is taking for transition from step one to step two, and also
Hmm.
again, if I click on step two and three, it would show transition time from step two to step three.
Got it.
Now, if I come here and I see the span, so since the first funnel is for front-end proxy and ingress, clicking on this trace ID gives me this ingress, front-end proxy and ingress, and I see the status code is error here, right?
Hmm.
So indeed, like there is some error happening in the underlying trace. So this helps in understanding. You can once you know the overall picture of the funnel, you
Hmm.
can then start diving deeper into the corresponding traces.
Got it.
And yeah, so for some bigger span, there's again I see some error happening here,
Okay.
and yeah. So
To
from
15
there you can
seconds and
start.
there are errors.
Exactly. So these are some sort of like outliers, and they are also happening. There's also some error happening, so
Hmm.
that you can spot right from the funnel.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah. So one thing is also apart from the like traces with errors, you can also look at the slowest traces. So maybe there could be cases because of some other span which is not here in the trace. The overall trace duration is higher, right?
Hmm.
So you can then go ahead and like look into what are the most slowest traces right
Hmm.
from just clicking there.
Got it.
Now coming back to it, yeah. If you have any further questions, otherwise I will now go ahead and like create a funnel right from the Trace Explorer page.
Yeah, feel free to go there. So it seems pretty clear till now.
Okay. So maybe let's say I want to see once front end calls the checkout service, I want to first maybe I can. So there are two ways to create the funnel. One way is you can create it directly from the Trace Explorer, and that's what we are going to do now. And the flow that I want to check is the front end calls a backend service, and then the checkout service calls the email service. Now, what's
Hmm.
happening between these three steps, right?
Hmm.
So let me just go ahead and create a new funnel. Maybe name it as front end to checkout to email flow. And once I have created the funnel, I can click on it and just add it here. Either I can write down or I can just use this replace button to update that with the corresponding span details. Now we have successfully created step one. Let me go ahead and create the step two, which is using this HTTP post for checkout method. And I also want to add another step. Let's just create the three-step funnel, and here I want to add the final email send order confirmation. Now once I've created all the steps successfully from the Trace Explorer, I can just click here and open the funnel. And luckily there's no error happening as you can see. For
Right.
the last 30 minutes, like all the total spans are 86, there is no drop, the conversion rate is 100.
That's
There's no.
it's a very good information for my team that and all of my front end requests are going to checkout and all of the checkouts are going to the emails directly, right?
Yeah. So
Awesome.
very quickly, you can just understand what's happening across different trace IDs for the
Hmm.
last 30 minutes or for last 1 hour or for last 6 hours. And that gives you, okay, now if I click last 6 hours, there are some error happening in all the
Interesting.
funnels, right?
Interesting.
So that way you can like drill down your investigations, go to the
I would be
corresponding trace
interested to
ID.
know which other trace IDs that with which had error.
Yes, so maybe what I can do now is if I'm interested in step one to step two, I can just click here. Now, as I can see, whatever error that is occurred in the first span, those spans are not populated.
That was a very interesting demo. We got to know how we can create trace funnels and like what are the interesting steps that we can create and see the uh, error rate and average latencies between the different steps. So Shivanshu would like to understand more like what it takes for the user to get started on this feature and how can they get started and what are the next set of things that we are planning to build on this product.
Okay, so good question. I think one of the best thing about the feature is you can just get started as long as your the trace data is coming and you are using open telemetry. You can just
Hmm.
use the trace explorer page as I showed you, and you can start creating funnels. It just works out of the box. For
Nice.
the product improvements, there are a few things planned. So we are going to improve the UX of the overall funnel page, and
Hmm.
also today, like there's one thing missing. So we you get the overall understanding of what's happening across the funnel, right? But maybe a user would also be interested in diving deeper into a specific funnel step and what is the like time series data for it. So, okay, so for funnel step one, in our example, it was checkout service. They want to see for the checkout service what is the P99 for the whole duration, right? So they can just see the P99 chart for the checkout service. Similarly
Got
for
it.
the funnel steps.
More like a time series chart. Like if there's a spike in between the last 6 hours, they should be able to go and drill down more into that part, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Got it. Awesome. It was very interesting to see such an innovative feature. I think it will be very useful to the users. And before closing this out, the session for today, what would you like to tell to users or talk to users?
So sure, I think so. All the users out there, especially if you are using async systems and you want to like fine tune your applications in a way that performs faster, you should like try out the feature and like feel free to reach out to us in our community Slack channel, and throw your questions at us. We'll happy to help you.
Awesome. Sure. Thank you, folks, for being watching the Trace Funnel features tonight. I hope you all will like it very much. Feel free to reach out on our Slack community and create issues in our GitHub repository. We'd be very happy to understand the use cases that you're trying to solve with this feature specifically. And we are always looking out to improve and bring on more and more capabilities to this feature and overall SigNoz as a product. Thank you, Shivansu, very much for coming on today and sharing with us the thing that you have been working on. And bye bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye bye.